Welcome to the show. This is Boulder County Tonight. My name is Andy Epler. I'm the host of the show. Thank you very much. We don't have very many people in the studio today because this show's recorded from a secret bunker location. But tonight we have a good show for you. We got Caitlin Rockett coming on the show. We also have, as a special guest, my friend Kurt, who will laugh every time I point at him. That turns out to be really useful in a comedy show. And I don't think I'll ever do another comedy show without that feature. It's just, I'm going to bring him on first dates. Don't laugh when I point at you, Kurt. No free laughing. And that goes for you at home, too. Since you at home, of course, are mostly the audience, and I suppose if you're watching this when they air it in Longmont Public Media on Channel 8 in Longmont, then I suppose I also need to be like, hey, wake up. Hey, wake up, old timer. Hey, you left the TV on. Hey, don't be afraid. It's okay. You're all right. Hey, you fell in front of the sleep. You fell asleep in front of the TV here again. And it's time for you to go to bed, okay? I want you to go ahead and just get your little blanket and head on in the other room now, okay? Okay. Good to see you. I'm glad you're awake. Glad you're still breathing. But also, this show's not really for you. You should probably go. Thank you. There. Now that we took care of that, that seems important. What else is going on? My hand is still kind of like half ruined. Remember when I was complaining last episode? I had a knife injury in the desert trying to make a movie, and that didn't go great, and the hand hurts, and looks like may not be playing too much guitar for the next little while, so that kind of had me feeling down the last few days. But instead of feeling down, I decided to write you guys some jokes, because it seems to me if I'm going to host a comedy show, maybe I should, fucking prepare something. So I decided I'd write you guys some Tonight Show style jokes, which I don't know if you've ever seen these the fucking national level fucking Tonight shows. There's always formulaic things. I've kind of deciphered that and written you some. And we'll see if they're good at all. Sounds like they're gonna be great. So let me fucking pitch a joke at you. Ready? Prepare yourself. Are you ready? Grandma, go back to sleep. What are you doing up? Get out of here. Sorry. Wouldn't it be terrifying if you're like that old person that really did fall asleep in front of the TV? That's not really happening. Because if you are watching this in Longmont on the TV, I want to know who you are. Would you please email me at bouldercountytonight@gmail.com, because I do not understand your demographic. I don't have a TV, so I'm a supporter of the station, but mostly it's internet side, because that's where the world is. But I appreciate it too, and I don't have a newspaper, either. So this is the world we're going to live in today. All right, let me pitch you a nice Tonight Show style joke. They kind of give you one of these, and they go, American billionaires are begun their own space exploration programs over the last few years, spending untold billions to be able to move to outer space. Isn't that wild? Isn't that amazing? Normal Americans are unsurprised by this effort by the 1%, because a zero-gravity environment turns out to be the perfect place to hide from a guillotine. That's right. Too heavy? Too mean? Too much truth in my heart? Let me back away. Let me zoom into our local world. Let me give you a different style joke, a little different voice joke. Let me do the lighter version. This is some amazing news that just came out. You heard of this? Anybody heard of this? The Longmont Union Reservoir is ending their summer, spring swimming hours. Isn't that amazing? They're ending the swimming hours at the reservoir. When raised for comment, one local fish was quoted as saying, so I think that's a stupider joke, but good too, right? I don't know. I didn't know I'd be doing impressions about this, but like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I do have some more local news, actually. Someone related to our community was in the Olympics, as it turns out. Rookie U.S. Olympian Jade Carey, daughter of Longmont High School graduate Danielle Mitchell Greenberg, perhaps, took gold in the floor exercises at the Tokyo Olympics. Isn't that amazing? That's really impressive. No word yet on how soon she'll have to pawn the medal to pay her rent in Boulder County. Ooh, is it too much darkness again? I'm trending to the darkness. I actually just found out the Olympics were happening. I had no idea, of course, because I've been distracted with, the news. I don't know if you've tuned into the news at all lately. The fucking forests are burning. The ocean's on fucking fire. There's a worldwide pandemic. Some fucking rednecks almost took over the government. Like, we have a lot going on, and still motherfuckers are like, look, when this little guy jumps in the pool, he makes such a tiny splash. What are you doing? They're like, oh my God, the ocean's on fire. And this guy's like doing the power walking and shit. Like, who's really tuning into power walking? Not to discount the amazing work of these athletes or whatever, but like, Jesus Christ, the ocean is on fire. Sorry, I don't mean to, Jesus Christ, am I getting into too much darkness? I'm backing up now. This is why we sent Grandma to bed. Facebook released a new part of their system where people can go on and submit prayer requests. Did you hear about this? People can go on, religious folks ostensibly, will go on and submit prayer requests onto the Facebook app, I guess. Facebook promises not to charge for this particular service because making money off of people's prayer requests is the church's job. It's too much, right? Too much darkness. Should we move on? What if I don't want to move on? What can you do? Oh. All right. I release you. Maybe one more note. Because I read some medical news this week, and I feel led to share with you. A new study shows that testicle-owning individuals can increase their testosterone by 200% simply by exposing those testicles to sunlight for 10 minutes a day for 2 weeks. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible? That's why I'm so manly, said our former President Donald Trump, whose neck is a scrotum. The scrotum joke. Didn't see that coming, did you? Fancy little scrotum joke. So now I'm going to invite on our guest for the evening. This will be a delightful interview. This was Caitlin Rockett, who works with the Boulder Weekly. Caitlin, please join me in my little corner here.
Hi.
Please join me. It's nice to see you.
It's good to see you too.
It's been a bit since we've gotten to hang out.
Yeah.
So
there was more wine the last time, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we went to La Vita Bella here in town. We caught a quick drink and talked about the world.
They brought us some cake, some chocolate cake. It was delightful.
That's right. Those motherfuckers brought us chocolate cake.
Those motherfuckers brought us chocolate cake.
Just a couple professionals sitting around talking about the community, and they bring us wine and cake.
Just dropping F-bombs left and right.
That's all we do.
That's all we do around here.
That's all we do. What's been going on in your world since I saw you last?
Mostly work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as you know, being a journalist ain't no joke.
No.
Even when you're an arts and culture editor like me. But yeah, mostly kind of trying to step into some new horizons at work. The Weekly has gone through some permutations, as it were, and it's okay in a certain way, it can be a little scary to have to go through change. We've had a team that have been together for a long time, and we're kind of shifting right now. But I'm kind of trying to step into a slightly more prominent role. So kind of gearing up toward election coverage.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And
We have local elections coming up.
We do.
I know. Aren't we all so excited?
So excited. I don't have fatigue from that at all. Not one bit.
I'm like basically the opposite of like a journalist, of course. I'm what we call in the business an idiot. And so thank you, Kurt, right on time with the laughter. Isn't he the best?
Really?
Watch
Truly.
this. So you could say anything like, local firefighters failed to save a group of puppies as they're all swept away in the river. You know? You could say, the poor elderly person we sent to bed earlier in the episode won't be waking up tomorrow and their family will miss them. You know what I mean? You can say anything and he'll laugh. He's the perfect instrument for this. Thank you, Kurt. You're a gem. And we take back all the things. Jesus Christ, I don't want any letters, especially if you're a puppy sending letters. I'm sick of this shit. Sorry. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
All good.
As we move toward this election, there's like lots of things that have kind of been on my mind as far as issues, right? Yeah. And one thing that I've been wanting to talk to somebody about before I like start interviewing politicians on this fucking show. I want to like, this is why one reason I wanted to have you here. One, you're a fabulous character, delightful company, and a great public servant. Thank you. And I know nothing, and you know so very much. And so I wanted to just tap your resource brain about the issue of homelessness in Boulder County. It seems like a real problem. And as I understand it, in Boulder at least, they are not allowing people to camp, but that's basically how they go after the homeless. Yeah. So it's like Boulder County is like one of the top 10 places to live, one of the top 10 places to camp, but if you mix those things, we may arrest you.
Acceptable. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So is that something the city council came up with?
So I'm going to get the numbers wrong on this, but several years ago, city council enacted a ban on camping in public spaces in the city. So yes, city council is the entity that's responsible for this ban. And camping can look like a lot of things according to city council. It can be covering yourself up with a newspaper in a park.
Really?
And it can be using a tent. Recently, Boulder City Council, I believe, unanimously voted to prevent any kind of tents in public parks, and I believe propane tanks were another thing that they prevented, which I know people can understand the danger of things like propane tanks.
A propane tank is a bomb,
It
basically, isn't it?
It is a bit of a bomb. But part of the issues that are colliding here, last year during the pandemic, obviously it exacerbated issues in the homeless population in Boulder. Shelters were restricting the amount of people that could be inside of shelters at a given time, trying to keep the virus from spreading in places.
Right.
But it also coincided with this planned reduction of services. Boulder has entered sort of a policy platform that's being used nationally called Housing First. The idea is that Boulder wants to prioritize housing before other things like behavioral health or substance abuse treatment. And there is data that backs up this housing first thing can work. But the issue during the pandemic was that as we're going through this reduction of services, there were only about 120 shelter beds available. The city estimates that there are somewhere between 400 and 700 homeless people in the city.
There were 120-ish beds
120
available
beds
total.
Available. And we also lost the severe weather shelter, I believe, closed last year in May, and that's a permanent thing, I believe. So if you're looking at 120 beds available and a population of maybe between 400 and 700 homeless folks living here, you've got literally hundreds of people who have nowhere to go, who are literally forced to sleep somewhere, but they can't sleep in the parks. Or
in any public space. And of course, if they go on private property, they could be arrested there.
Mm-hmm. And you'll note too, I mean, the way that this is done in lots of cities, you'll note benches oftentimes will have armrests on them to keep people from laying down across benches.
Yes.
There are lots of ways that we try to sort of prevent people from literally laying down and resting.
Like, I'm sure that like the people on city council have a target in mind for who they think they're helping here, but I can't seem to come up with who that would be.
If you ask council, I think that they would say that they're trying to help the homeless population here.
Get the fuck out?
Yeah, it feels that way a lot, right?
It seems like the policy is much like when a bartender's like, oh, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
That's exactly what it feels like.
But at gunpoint.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can figure this out. I mean, if you're homeless, you don't have the resources to deal with being arrested. I mean,
I don't have the resources for that.
Who has the resources for that?
My cute little jacket's worth like $15.
As sharp as this looks, $15. And so, yeah, it's. I think that the city council would tell you that that prioritizing housing first. There's something like a 35 units building somewhere in north. It's on Lee Hill actually. That is specifically intended for this housing first platform. I do not think that it's at full capacity right now. It's only 35 units. You have to go through an intake process that basically determines the kind of help that you need. And recently, Boulder actually placed residency requirements on your ability to get into a shelter. So they're prioritizing people who have been in Boulder for more than 6 months.
And those people, if they're homeless, of course, you're talking about people that are living on the street for 6 months, never sleeping, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, and the ACLU actually recently came down on Boulder, and I believe, and I could be wrong about this, I believe filed a lawsuit. Basically saying that it's the camping ban is unconstitutional, and saying that this residency requirement, I believe that it was ACLU that said that it disproportionately, homelessness in general disproportionately affects people of color. I believe that Black folks in Boulder are represented 12 times more in the homeless population than they are in the general population of Boulder.
No,
and we're talking about probably only maybe 1%, less than 1% or so of the general population. So it starts to look real discriminatory.
It wasn't so long ago, I think, that Longmont actually had the headquarters for the KKK. I think that was true in the 60s.
Yeah, and Longmont actually, there is a woman whose name I might not, I believe it's Shakita Yarborough, and Shakita's a single mom, and she's running for, I believe, one of the at-large council seats. And Shakita made a comment to perhaps the Longmont Times Call about how she believed that she would be the first Black council member ever.
That's incredible and embarrassing.
And incredibly embarrassing. And a problem that the Front Range in general knows pretty well, all up and down.
Huh. Interesting.
Pretty white here, folks.
Very white here.
Very white.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a unique set of facts, and I must say, like, disappointing. One thing I know Longmont does that I really love is something called the core team, where we have like a therapist, a fire person, a therapist, an EMT, and a police in a car going around, like actually trying to have conversations with people or whatever, with something other than like a taser or a gun or some shit.
Right, and this is what people talk about is what they mean when they see defund.
Yeah,
police.
Exactly.
This is about shifting our focus away from violent methods of control and toward communication. Yeah. Who would have thought talking to people could help?
Yeah, I think like people have been a little bit put off by the term defund the police because like it's for some reason we didn't use the term reallocate police funding. I don't know, it's just not as fun somehow, or it just didn't connect. But I think that's what most people actually mean.
I think it's what most people mean. If you get into some of the more, I don't want to say more left wing because I'm pretty darn left wing, but there are definitely some really heavily progressive groups that would say, no, we mean defund. We mean do away with this military state. Yeah. I think that we're a long way from that. It makes me nervous to say, but I do think that we're a long way from that. I think that it's a gradual shift, and I think we have to start by reallocating.
Yeah, reallocate. That's my opinion as well. And then also, like, it would be great if we would quit giving police like surplus military gear, like all these tanks and shit that we're like parking in Nevada because we spent trillions or whatever.
Yeah.
Just leave them in the fucking desert, right? Okay.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
when you know in our backyard, you know, we watched Elijah McClain, be drugged to death, and if that doesn't move you, then I don't know what will. You know, I can remember walking around in my neighborhood one day with headphones in, just like Elijah McClain was when he was stopped by the cops, and just started crying, thinking about the ability that I have to just walk around and dance and act fool like we all have a right to do, and he lost his life for that. He lost his life because he was a black man. But you know, yeah, talking about things like defund the police, like it's a serious situation, and we've got to talk about whether we live in a military state or not. And I think that 2020 might have showed us that we do.
I agree with you, and I feel like local politics are really important to sort of at least get educated about, because I think most real change happens at a community level.
Absolutely.
And so we get so distracted by the national level politics that sometimes feels like we can't even really affect.
Well, I mean, when an orange scrotum is your president, it's really hard to look away from that train wreck, you know? I mean, like...
Yeah. But like that, actually, if we were able to pay attention and kind of be able to have real conversations with our local public servants, I believe we'd make a lot more real change much quicker. So that's one of our goals for this show, is to be able to talk about actual things. And golly, we'll have fun too. Any other little notes that we should think about for Boulder County as we move forward? I'm sure there's a million fucking things.
Well, I think one of the things that I've said is above my pay grade, though, but while we're all choking on smoke outside, we got to talk about climate change and talking about meeting climate goals. And I may be a little off about this, but I think that Boulder has something like a goal by 2030 for like zero emissions or something. We want to have all of our, the idea 10 years ago was that Boulder was going to municipalize its electric grid, and that ship refused to sail. Go figure, it's a really big endeavor to start your own electric grid.
And it don't always go too well, as we found out in Texas.
Right, exactly. So last year, I think Boulder basically went back into franchise with Excel. And I think that it's really important for people to keep an eye on what's happening with that, because Excel is a big corporation that provides energy to several states in the West, and their goal is to make money. And if Boulder's goal is to reduce our energy output, to reduce our emissions, working with a large corporation obviously gives them certain advantages. There's money, it's available to them. They have the infrastructure of Excel to use. But I think that people in Boulder County, people in the city of Boulder, need to keep an eye on the reporting that comes out about this new franchise agreement that Boulder's entered in with Excel, to make sure that we're actually moving in the right direction. Because as we mentioned earlier, the IPCC just basically told us that we're fucked, you know, that we're gonna hit that 2 degrees Celsius mark.
Yeah, we blew up the world.
And
by like 2030, everybody's a cinder block of like ash or whatever.
Which makes caring about shit really hard sometimes, right? Yeah. Like there's like a level of feudalism, like this sort of fatalistic kind of nihilistic.
Yeah, I think everybody should go ahead and consider stop paying off your fucking student debt. It's just a thought.
It's a good day to forgive those student loans.
Fuck it, dog.
Good day.
Forward the letter to the fucking fireplace. You know what I mean?
But yeah, the municipalization with Excel, I think, is important to talk about.
Did you guys get fucked over with this high-speed train bullshit as well?
The high-speed train, the train that's never going to exist between Longmont and Denver. I mean, what did they say? It's going to be like 2040 something?
Yeah, they said, I think, 2050.
Yeah.
And that's 20 years after the end of the world, if you have noticed.
What fuckery, right?
It's like a perfect... Look, I'm going to start writing all my contracts that way. Oh, I'm going to definitely come through on this agreement at no cost to me in 50 years. after the world's burnt to a cinder.
Well, and and the thing, it'd be the frustrating thing about that. So like RTD has no money. I mean, if you've ever ridden RTD, like a regional pass, it's like $10.50 for the day, and I think if you buy a book, it's like they don't really give you that much of a discount for the whole thing. It's like, so RTD is probably making no money every year. I mean, it's shitty. It's shitty. Like, like it's shitty. And we're trying to find answers to these things, and we need to. We have to. We've got to, like, this country as a whole, not just Boulder, but this is where we're at, where we can affect change. But like, this nation is built on cars. It's built for cars.
Yeah.
And we got to move away from this shit. We can't just keep living this way. Even if your car is a, I guess if your car is a Tesla, I guess you're fine. But not all of us have that money. So I drive a Prius. I don't know.
No, I drive like a Camry. Fuck it. I don't know. I'll only drive it till 2030. How about that? You know what I'm talking about? My hand hurts, but this part works great. You know what I'm talking about?
I make a plug for a series that we're doing at Boulder Weekly, tying back a little bit to the homelessness issue. This is a bit different, but Boulder's unaffordable. It's hard to live here, and Longmont ain't much better. Getting really rough. Boulder Weekly is doing a series called Unaffordable, and it's looking at different aspects of affordability or the lack thereof in Boulder. Everything from HOA fees, municipal housing vouchers, which are kind of different than federal housing vouchers, the design of affordable housing and how that plays into people's quality of life and their economic mobility or lack thereof, commercial affordability. So it's a multi-part series. We're actually going to be producing a podcast about it. The written series is happening as we speak. You can go to boulderweekly.com and read that. And the podcast will be out later this year. And in terms of homelessness, one of our reporters, Emma Athena, did a really wonderful multi-part series about homeless policies in Boulder County last year. And won some award for that, so did a really great podcast for that, and that's called Unhoused. And it's a really great place to learn about the ways in which Boulder City Council did a lot of the opposite of what maybe they should have. Things like homelessness sweeps during the pandemic when
it was like freezing outside and there's a literal pandemic going on.
Yeah, and they're making people move around and so it's a really great primer, I think, for some of the issues that we're talking about when we're talking about homelessness.
Yeah, really an interesting topic, really fucking heartbreaking. I would love to ask people from city council and people running for city council what they think about that issue, like who they think they're supposed to be helping in that situation. Would be a great question to find out.
I think it would be too, and I think you're going to have some folks from Longmont City Council on. I think you said Brian Bagley, and I would be interested to know their answer too. It's a little different here in Longmont. Longmont has a safe lot. It's at a church. It's undisclosed, and I believe it's for safety reasons. There are, I believe, 8 spots where folks who still have cars, but they are living in their cars, can have a safe spot to park and sleep, and they can use the church facilities to use computers for job searching, to clean up if they have a job, to get meals and things like that. And I think that's a really great stopgap.
Yeah.
Longmont also broke ground last year, and I don't know where they're at on that, but there's a tiny home village. I want to say it's called Longmont Village, but it's for veterans experiencing homelessness. And
we're thankful for when churches like that can serve the public in such a tangible way. We give churches a lot of shit on the show, and that's going to continue. But this is a good outcome.
The safe lot, this is what Jesus would do.
And they're doing
this is the kind
8
of shit
spots or whatever. That's like too big a percentage of what the city of Boulder can do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you consider the numbers of what Boulder is able to do, they're like, we could do like 130 beds or whatever the fuck. This one church is like, I don't know, we got 8, fuck you guys. And that seems just like, well, somebody's full of the darkness, and I don't think it's the church.
I don't think it's the church either.
And who's to say, goddamn, people get surprised when I have different opinions, but I'm happy with that kind of outcome. Thank you to that local church. And I hope it's an inspiration to other churches and other places that might be able to do the same thing. Sometimes it comes to the community itself to do what the fucking big boss doesn't want to fucking do.
Well, and that's, I mean, I don't covet anybody on city council's job.
No, that job fucking sucks.
That job fucking sucks. And so I understand that they are balancing the needs of an entire city full of people, you know, and I understand that that is not an easy balance. But when we talk about like a society, and what is society, a great one, as many people think America isn't the goal of society to protect the weakest among us? And isn't that what truly makes our society a functioning, working, beautiful thing? And I know that it's, once again, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and when you pull one lever, something else moves over here. But
shouldn't we be moving some shit at this point?
Well, yeah, and it's you know, and I get it that we're working with multi-million-dollar budgets here, and I know that there's complexity in this, and I understand that for any politician that these are not easy questions. And we're talking about things like homelessness. We're talking about like this complicated braid of funding. It's local, it's national, you know, it's regional. There are nonprofit organizations, there are government organizations. I mean, you're really it's I think the technical term is clusterfuck. It's a real clusterfuck.
It's a super duper clusterfuck.
Yeah. So nobody's trying to say that like this shit's easy, but everybody is trying to say that like humans deserve to be treated like humans, and you deserve to have a place to sleep.
That's right. This is what it looks like when we don't fix the problem. You know?
Yeah, and you know, and I think that like that's maybe part of the issue is like, are we looking at the right problems? Are we trying to address the right problems? I mean, there are issues in Boulder about like height restrictions and the blue line, which is ultimately open space, is kind of what blue line is.
Okay.
There are reasons why it's Boulder is what it is, right? Why it's a bubble. It's sort of, it can't go up, it can't go out.
Yeah, that's why I moved to Longmont, because I thought that economic energy was going to shoot into our town 10 years ago.
Over this way.
And
Well,
here we are, man.
I was going to say, and it has for all the good and the bad that brings.
That's yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming on my stupid show.
My fucking pleasure, man.
Oh my God, it was my pleasure too.
This was so.
Kurt's still here doing the laugh. Isn't he great? Put your hands together at the house for Kurt. Isn't he great?
Yeah, Kurt.
Thank you very much for watching the show. Jesus, I guess we'll see you next time. There.